Hey students, welcome back. This is video number 3. In this video, we are going to look at some if-else statements. We're going to keep deepening our knowledge of Boolean code, and we're going to program your robot so you can push either button, first or second, and you can have it drive forward and backwards, or backwards and forwards, or backwards and then forwards. We're going to put all sorts of options in here in this video. So again, I kind of liken this to if I've had a long day at school, I get home, I want to sit on my couch and turn my TV on. Somebody probably programmed it to make my remote work with the TV, and I don't have to push the buttons on my remote in a certain order. Sure, I have to power it up first, but once it's turned on, I can turn the volume down if my kids were watching it before me and they left it way too loud. If there's a show on I don't want to watch, I can flip to a different channel and then I can adjust the volume. Right? Maybe my kids were playing video games before I got to it, and I want to change the input source. I can push that button first too. Right? The way we wrote this code for our bot in video number 2 was nothing like that TV watching experience I just described. Right? The way we wrote this code, I need to push the left bumper before it can advance to drive forward, and then I need to push the right bumper and make the thing drive in reverse, right, before I can push the left bumper again. All right. So we talked a little bit about Boolean coding, is where it's always looking for a statement and saying, is this true? Is it false? Based on those results, what should I do? And the way we've written this code, this wait until is just constantly checking with the left bumper, and it's saying, is this case true yet? Is this case true yet? Is the bumper pushed yet? Is the bumper pushed yet? And it won't move on to the next line of code until this condition is true. Okay. Same thing down here. It's not going to move past this right bumper until that statement is true. So we're going to use some if then else statements now. So we're going to tell it to look for a condition. It's going to check once. If that statement's not true, it's going to tell the robot to do something else. And then it's going to move on to the next line of code and check some other things out for us. All right. I might be getting a little ahead of myself. At this point, it's probably going to make more sense if I show it to you. So let's slide this piece of code over. And before we get too far into this, let's go to Save As. And let's call this thing project number 3. All right, just in case we mess something up here, we don't want to mess up project 2, which I know worked really well for me. All right, so now that we've got that saved, we're going to come into the control and we're going to grab this if then else snippet. We're going to drag this over here. And so I'm going to leave me a little space underneath get started. All right, and I'm going to see if we can pull this code apart. So I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to pull these 2 wait statements apart, and then I'm going to take these drive statements and just separate them a little bit. And do I get enough space? There we go. There we go. So we're going to, again, recycle a lot of stuff that we've already done. All right. So what I want to do here is it says if this condition exists, then do something. All right. So I got to give it a condition first, and that's going to be the bumper being pressed. So I'm going to drag my bumper press out of that wait until. I'll drop it into my if. Okay. So if bumper L is pressed, I still want the bot to drive forward for 5 seconds and then stop driving. Okay. Now, if the bumper isn't pressed, I need to tell it what I'd like it to do. All right, so if it reads this line of code and the bumper is pressed, it's going to drive forward. If it reads this particular line of code and the bumper is not pressed, I just want the bot to stop driving, right, or stay stopped. All right, so then I'm going to take and I'm going to write this statement again, but I'm going to put it for my right bumper. All right, so we're going to scroll down. We're going to take another if then else bracket over here, and we're going to put it right at the very end. And so the robot's going to check for this condition once. If it's there, it's going to do something for 5 seconds. If it's not, it's going to stop driving. Then it's going to check for this condition once. It's going to do something or it's going to stop driving. All right, so I'm going to, again, steal this condition out of here. My bumper R pressed, and we'll drop it into there. I'm going to take this snippet of code and I'm going to put it underneath my if-then statement. And then I'm going to duplicate the stop driving block and I'm going to drop it down there. Okay. If you're going, how did Mr. Coleman do that? I just right-clicked to get those couple of options. Now, if I were to take this whole code and drag it underneath get started, remember the brain on our robot processes things way faster than our brain does. So by the time I hit the play button, it will have already run through these two if else or if then else statements and said, well, neither button is pressed. And it'll be down here at the bottom going, what do I do next? What do I do next? All right. So we need to make it look for these conditions for a little while. So I'm going to pull this apart. I'm going to bring my infinite or that forever loop back over here. And then I'm going to drag this whole piece of code inside of here. Right? I don't need the wait untils anymore. So I'm going to right click and delete them. And I'm pretty confident this file is where I want it to be. So I'm going to save it. Or this code is at a state where I want it to be. I know the file's safe into my Google Drive. All right. And what we've got here that we can test in just a minute is a code where it's going to look. If this statement is true, it's going to drive forward. If not, it's going to stop driving. Then it's going to look at this one. It's going to say, is this statement true? If so, yep, I'm going to reverse. Otherwise, I'm just going to stay stopped. And it's going to get down to the bottom here, and it's going to infinitely loop through these two Boolean statements that we've written. Okay. So to test this one out, what I would recommend you do is try hitting that right bumper a couple times in a row. See if you can get the bot to continually drive backwards for 5 seconds a couple times in a row, and that should tell you that this code is working correctly. All right, and if you've got these couple concepts down from projects 1, 2, and 3, you are well on your way to becoming a coding master. Right? So when you get this one done, show it to your instructors so they can check you off, and they'll probably have you move on to the next one.